everyone, welcome to Better Us Now podcast. We are three athletic vegan girls from Japan aiming to make our earth a better place with happy animals and healthy humans. このポッドキャストではスポーティーなビーガンガールズ、萌え、アスカ、カホの3人が環境社会問題、ビジネスフィットネス、健康瞑想、生理、子育てなど様々な話題や課題について力強く美しく輝きたい女性たちのためにホットな情報をビーガン目線でお届けします。 Better Us makes better us. Hi everyone, in today's episode we welcome Alex Derech. He is also known as Vegan Oji on social media. Oji means prince in Japanese. He studied Japanese in LA, and after the graduation, he decided to move to Japan to spread veganism and the plant-based lifestyle a little bit more. Now he works as a model and a talent. He also has a podcast called 愛の架け橋. We will have an interview with Alex in English in the first half of the episode, and the conversation in Japanese will follow afterwards. 今日のゲストは SNS 上でビーガン王子として知られているアレックス・デレチさんをお迎えしていきます。モデル、タレントとして活動しながら日本を世界一ビーガンフレンドリーの国への夢をもとにビーガンや SDGs にまつわる情報を楽しく、美味しく、そして分かりやすく配信。さらにプラントベースの分野における商品開発や PR 活動を行っています。愛の架け橋というポッドキャスト番組もお持ちです。最初のインタビューは英語ですが、後半からは私たちが翻訳しながら日本語で会話をしていきます。では早速インタビューを聞いていきましょう。楽しんで聞いてください。 Let's dive into a conversation with Alex. Enjoy!
Okay, so here we are for the third episode in our new format of having English speakers and global people into. So far, we've been really lucky, and today is a really special guest we have, which is Alex. Many people know Alex as Vegan Prince, and he's been really somebody special for me to have met about 5 years ago. We became friends, but I'm also a big admirer of what he does in the vegan community. I've been able to introduce him to my closest and dearest friend. We've spent 10 days down here in Okinawa. We've done a lot of things, and I'm just really happy to have Alex as a guest.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be your third guest on this show, and I'm excited to talk about all things vegan, plant-based, environmental issues. I'm ready.
Great. Well, maybe as a start, I'd really just love to have the audience be able to understand your journey with veganism, how you came to this change in your life, or assuming that you weren't born vegan, and maybe you can just walk us through some of the key points, or how you came about being vegan.
Yeah, for sure. So as most current vegans, I did start my life as a non-vegan. And so I just ate basically quote unquote regular food until I was age 17, by which point, I only on a surface level was aware of the fact that vegetarians existed, right? But I hadn't even ever thought about or even heard the word vegan or veganism or anything like that until I was in high school, and there was a classmate who, it was a small school, so we were together, for many years. All of a sudden, I heard from her that she was eating vegan, or, part of the time she was trying to eat more vegan. And I was like, what the hell is that? And just hearing her story at first, I had a very kind of, not negative, but kind of adverse reaction. Like, why would someone, just willingly restrict their food choices for seemingly no good reason on the surface, right? But then just basically hearing that person's story, and then I remember going home and looking up what is veganism, and reading a bunch of articles, and I stumbled upon that guy Gary Yourofsky's video,
Yeah.
the quote unquote best speech on the internet. And that was what really, opened my eyes basically to, wow, there's a whole world of issues involving animals and also, terrible destruction to the environment, and also a surprising amount of health related issues, which, really surprised me. And at the time as well, which that was about nearly 11 years ago now, there still wasn't that much research, I think, on the health aspects of food and, the relationship between food and your body. And now there's more and more coming out every year. And just basically looking at that speech, I was like, I just don't want to live my life like a philosopher, just always thinking about what's right and then never doing it. I want to kind of be one of the doers. So I was like, okay, I got to make a change. And it took me about a week. But then a week later, I was in bed one morning, I woke up and I was like, okay, it's now or never. I just got to do it. And so I just woke up basically with zero prior knowledge or experience. I was like, let's just do the vegan thing. And ever since that morning when I woke up, just got up, looked out for some food in the kitchen. I was like, there's a banana. Vegans can eat bananas, right? It really started from a point of zero knowledge, and that was 11 years ago now. So
wow,
that's what changed.
Yeah. So, having said that, things have changed so much, and we're both from the same state, and we both know that it's maybe not the epicenter of veganism, but one of the places where I think it's the most, whether that's, Germany or the UK or, California is definitely on the map in terms of vegan restaurants and things like that. So early on, were there, because, in my case, I've been in Japan for so long, so this happened in my case in Japan, but in your case in California, what were the resources that you were using going back, where you went from, just seeing a banana in the kitchen and to kind of, maybe not where you are now, but what were your early year influences on nutrition or ideas for food? What were some of the early things that you focused on?
Yeah, well, actually, at that time, I don't think I used much, to be honest, because, I was just a 17-year-old high school kid. I didn't care too much about, I didn't think too much about what I was doing with my life or anything yet. But my main focus was just trying to find vegan food or find out what I could eat. So I started looking at, product labels a lot more and just opening my eyes to different vegan options in restaurants. Even if there wasn't a vegan option listed, I would always ask, so what's in it? Is there butter? Or can this be made without this? Or can this be made with olive oil instead? And there was a surprising amount of places that actually, accommodated my requests. And even living in Japan, same in the States, I always find that there's so many more vegan options than you might initially think. Because I remember just realizing one day that, hey, there's a restaurant right by my school that I've been passing every day for the last several years called the Vegan Joint. And I was like, wait, there's a vegan place right by my school? It just never entered my mind. I was never aware of it. And so just becoming more aware, finding different vegan places around me, different vegan options. And then I was still eating at home a grand majority of the time. So it was more family dynamics and having, my mother would still cook food for the family, but basically she would take out a bit of food for me before she added the animal products, right? Before she added the butter to the pasta, I would take a bit of pasta. Before she added the chicken to the vegetables, I would take, some of the vegetables and things like that. It was more learning to navigate that kind of family dynamic at first. And then coming to Japan, that's when I feel like I made a lot more use of, Happy Cow and joining some community meetup events. And I was like, wow, there's actually so many people doing this around me. I can't believe I've never joined any community while I was in LA, where the community was probably a lot bigger.
Right.
But
although I would say, in especially in Okinawa, but even in Tokyo, given when you're in LA, the amount of driving that you have to do in order to meet up with people and to become a community, I do think the sense of community and seeing the same people at the same restaurants is more likely to happen even in a big city like Tokyo, where you might, I remember going to where we first met, Falafel Brothers, and the same people, because I would go there quite often, given that it was directly, I mean, I don't know if I ever told you this story, but I moved to that apartment that I lived in, in Ebisu, because it had a backyard. That was the whole reason why I picked that place.
Yeah.
And there was construction going on right across the street. And I didn't know, and when I say construction, the building was already there, but it was kind of remaking this into kind of shop or restaurant, and I didn't know. And that's what became Falafel Brothers. So such a stroke of good luck to be right there. And not to mention, within a 5-minute walk in Ebisu, you had Koso Cafe, and you had Rainbow Raw Food, which is now closed, but they've kind of merged and with Hemp Cafe, and you had all these places. Maybe you can tell us kind of bouncing around on ideas, but I wanted to ask you in terms of, like, are there places that that you recommend now in Tokyo, for example, that you think where are the places that people can stalk Alex and get an Alex sighting?
Oh, me? I mean, recently I'm pretty boring now, but it depends who I'm bringing to which restaurant, right? Or who I'm introducing to. Are we talking longtime vegans where, we want to go eat the best food, or just hang out at a chill cafe like Two Foods or something? Or am I talking like first time vegan experiences where I want them, to get the whole, wow, eating this burger, but it's not a burger, and
let's try both. What are, like, if you have a first time vegan, or I don't want to say first time vegan, but somebody who's not very knowledgeable in veganism and the ideas and anything, you're just taking them out for a lunch, or you're meeting them for a lunch. What are some places you'd suggest in Tokyo in that case?
My go-tos would definitely be Einsof in Ikebukuro.
Okay.
And also Great Lakes in Waseda.
Okay.
Like near Waseda. Just because of the burger factor.
Wow.
It's a big burger, it looks like a great burger, it looks delicious, smells delicious, and is really good. And Einsof also has the pancakes, and they have the tiramisu, and I always get great reactions from that, like what is the tiramisu made of if it's not, milk and eggs?
Yeah.
And I always just go for that wow factor, because I think in order to effectively get people, spread veganism, or spread this lifestyle, one of my main goals is to get people excited about it.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to just feed, like, sure, it's healthier to eat more plant-based and more more vegetables and more salad-based food and everything, but for the first impression, I always try to make sure that it's something that they're really surprised, that they'll really remember, just to change that image of, oh, plant-based or vegan food equals bland food,
Good.
And so, that's one of my main goals, which is why I always bring them to a more junky place like that. But
it's so funny. So when I moved to Japan first, I was a student at Waseda. So, Great Lakes was not there, but I lived not so far from Ikebukuro. I lived in Meijiro-dai in Bunkyoku. So it's really funny. You're talking about neighborhoods that even when I was living in Tokyo, I wasn't going to in my last year. But that's very interesting, because there are so many young people and students in those areas. So really cool. Sorry to bounce around. We kind of light on something. I want to go into something a little bit heavier. How, I assume that all, or most vegans understand the connection with health and with environment. But in terms of animal ethics, you said, hey, the speech by Gary, I used to have the QR code for that speech. And hand it out to people, or if they, if they want. How do you talk about that subject? What are the ways? I have a way that I do it. I'm wondering, like, how are you able to bring that that subject up in Japan, if you do at all?
Oh, I do for sure. But do you mean broach the topic of animal ethics, or just veganism or plant-based?
The actual animal ethics part, like what's going on with the animals, as because we can all agree that it's much easier to talk about health and the environment. And yet most vegans, their deepest reason, is if you told, a lot of vegans, hey, you might not live any longer or any healthier. Would you give up the diet? Very few would say, oh yeah, now I'm giving it up because it was all about my health. However, on the animal ethics, I think that's one that people are both deeply concerned with, and then also have a difficulty bringing up with people that have not gotten to the point where they're looking at, okay, what's really going on? Is there any advice that you have, or some, I have my own,
everyone has their own spiel, right?
I mean, one of the things I say, when people say, hey, why do people even want to talk about this? I say, it's different than if, we're not trying, when you say your own choice, I'm not trying to convince you to wear the same color shirt as me or the same hats that I do, because in that case, there's no victim involved. But the reason why you might feel some sense of vegans actually concerned with your choice is because your choice, has a victim. They're realizing that. They're hoping you'll realize that. That's why they bring it up more than, hey, why don't you change your shoe style? I mean, we're not as concerned with, people's personal choices that don't involve, unless of course that shoe is made out of fur and crocodile skin. But anyways, that's such a delicate topic. And I know that in Japan, it's probably even more nuanced because of the culture. Are there any ways that you've found are or aren't so effective when you're talking about this really, specific topic?
Well, I think, one thing is, I think it is a lot harder to get people to connect the idea of what they're eating to, animals in a farm, an industrial farm somewhere in Japan, because, everything's presented so neatly here, right? Everything's presented in such a cute fashion and such perfect packaging that you almost feel like, well, if it's served to me this way, there can be nothing wrong with it, right? And it's just such a big part of the culture. But I definitely do, when broaching these topics, I definitely do start by talking a lot more about environmental issues first as a starting point. And I do then go into health and then animals. I always say, like, and that's just one aspect of the environmental part, of which there are, hundreds at least. And then that's not even talking about, the animals or the health reasons involved, is kind of the way I say it. And then they start asking me a bit more about those, and I can start talking about them. But one of the points that whether I'm talking about the environment or the animals or health, the biggest thing that I'm being aware of is to speak in a very fact-based manner, right? So I don't say like, I don't start off by saying we're destroying the environment, or the food we're eating is destroying the environment. I start off by saying, did you know that, it takes this amount of water to create, just a single burger, of which if you ate a vegan burger, you can save like over 90 to 95, 99% of that, depending. Right, and things like that. And then I'm like, and did you know that it's not just one burger, but then do you know how many cows are actually killed to make burgers every year? And I usually ask them to give me a number, and that number is usually way too low. And right. I'm like, well, that's actually way more than that, I think, we're breeding way more land mammals now than exist on the earth naturally. And I just try to get them surprised at the number, right? I don't tell them that there's a horrible thing going on. I try to get them to, make that connection themselves. So I just speak in a very fact-based manner, like, this is how many resources is being used. This is the actual number, which you may not have heard of before, that's being used. And usually, the animals are brought up in terrible conditions. So, you should be careful. Be it antibiotics or B12 supplements or everything, most of that is going to these land animals. And I kind of, broach the topic little by little, talking about that. But usually just speak in a very fact-based manner, so that, it's not a matter of opinion, right? It's not me saying that this is happening. This is what is actually happening. And then for the animal rights, I do usually they do usually start asking me a bit more, or I just start talking about things like gelatin and mentioning that there's a really cool video, and I was like, what do you think gelatin's made out of? Right. And then also just being very fact-based. Yeah, it's just made of, animal bones and ligaments and all these things that couldn't make it into the meat. And I don't say it's explicitly like it's horrible or, we're doing terrible things, but I just kind of say it in that way and have them try to make the connection themselves, like, oh, that's actually, not that great, or maybe this is a terrible thing going on, or these animal farms, yeah, does seem pretty dirty and terrible and everything. I always mention the documentaries too, Dominion and everything, and I'm like, yeah, I don't even show those or recommend those to people that much, because I'm like, I can't watch it myself. So I mention it that way. I'm like, yeah, there are actually all these amazing documentaries, but they're too terrible for me to watch.
Yeah.
It kind of gets you thinking like, oh, well, what's in there? Or like, I've seen some videos like that and I know it's horrible, but because there's always that psychological gap, right?
Yeah.
And I just try to present as much fact-based knowledge and to have them make the connection themselves.
Brilliant.
Because nothing happens if I just tell them.
Yeah, and I really like that. And the reason why I asked is because you have such a positive image and there's this like this dark closet of what's going on, and so I wanted to know how you do. In my case, very similar as well. I asked people about if they understand the relative intelligence of and social aspects of, let's say, a pig to a dog, or a cow to a cat. And then I also ask very often about the lifespan, and of course it can get really morbid when you talk about the lifespan of a male chicken or a male cow, but even the cow that that they see on the picture of their yogurt or milk carton, they probably think that cow lives a normal full life, not understanding milk until it's tired and then disposed of and turned into meat. Interesting. Well, let's go lighter, and I want to ask you, because you do so many things that are so positive in the community, and also that people are just big fans of yours, myself included. So I'd love to talk now a little bit lighter about what's going on in Alex's world, and kind of a free ticket to plug things you're doing and tell us what you're doing and what you're excited about and what's upcoming, so that people listening can understand what you're doing.
Yeah, well, for sure. Well, one thing just also to connect to the previous question and this new question as well is that concerning veganism, I think that whether you're in the United States, you're in the US, or you're in Japan, or wherever you are, I think it's something that 99% on people or more would be on board with if they knew the complete picture, right? No one wants unnecessary animal suffering, right?
Yeah.
No one wants the planet to die. No one wants to shorten their lifespan, by eating a certain food, right? So to me, it's something it's something everyone wants. It's a common goal that we should all be striving towards. But it often ends up in like these, debates and things like that. And I think that, the biggest issue that we have to find out how to solve is how can we get as many people on board to this common mission as possible, without triggering that, like, that fighting, attacking, or defending response, and because we are in this together, and I think we do have this common goal that we're all working towards. Every person I've talked to about this topic, they've all agreed with me, like on a lot of the points, right? They might have questions about animal ethics and intelligence and all this, but in the end, when we talk, I find everyone's on board once they have enough information. But so basically what I'm trying to do is, now that in my mind, we all have this common goal, it's how do we not just how do we get there, but how do we get there as fast as possible, and to minimize the amount of damage on for the amount of life lost, and environmental destruction and everything, and to me, that's getting as many people as possible excited about these issues, right? We have to make, be it environmental issues or veganism, we got to make it sexy, right?
Yeah.
We're not just going to start
you're
saying
good at
something
making
people
it sexy.
yeah, people aren't just gonna follow along, for no reason. And so we gotta be at the top of our game. And so one of the things I've been doing is I have spent, these past like 6 years kind of learning about Japanese culture and learning what is the optimal way to really spread this information. For my video, should I title it, why I don't eat eggs, or should I title it like why eating eggs can be bad for your health, or should I title it, there's millions of chickens being killed each year? It's like, what is the optimal way to present this information in a way that will get people, to actually be interested, watch the video, and just have that as a starting point on their journey to a more plant-based lifestyle. And so basically creating videos, creating tools and resources. Like I just released my own vegan map, right, where I leave my comments about the vegan restaurants that I've been to, and just have people be able to more easily access vegan options around them, and things like that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, you're right, because there is so much, and a lot of the information that ends up into some kind of debate, it is, people like you are so important, because when you're looking at these issues you have, and I know you're so modest, you're already like, oh gosh, don't say that, but certainly when you're looking at things like, if you're looking at things that there's one side that has a lot of money, for example, the dairy industry, or these, and the side that's saying, hey, this is destroying you're cutting down the Amazon in order to raise cattle, and you're basically destroying a lung of the world, and you're doing all these things. Those people are not getting money by getting followers, and if they are, it's very little, right? So people like you that are dedicating their lives to putting this kind of into their mission for what they do, they need to resort to internet and videos and things like that. And so what you do is so important. So I really appreciate it. Well, and any other projects that you can tell us about as our kind of, what else have you, and speaking of sexy, I love the way that you kind of intertwine some of some of your videos with that, and almost kind of making lighthearted as well at the same time. That's been a lot of fun to watch, like how you've changed some of the way you put the information out.
Well, I mean, I have been focusing a lot more on making higher quality videos recently, because I found like a lot of things that I talk about, or that I talk about in person about veganism, right? I realized that in my videos, wait, I'm not even actually talking about that. I'm not even actually communicating what I want to say, right? It sounds weird, but I've been vegan for nearly 11 years now, and so a lot of the things that it's basically a normal part of my world, but it's part of my job, right, to make sure that I'm communicating things effectively to someone who may not have heard the word vegan before, and we're choosing a plant-based meat over regular meat is not an obvious choice, right? And so just getting down, not down to the level, but just kind of hand-holding through the creating content that can help handhold people through the first initial stages of learning about it is a big focus of mine right now. So I want more videos like that. Yeah, and then also I had created a podcast as well with a fellow friend, Lena, which is called Love Bridge in English, right? And that's on YouTube, Spotify, and everything, where we do talk about life, just general lifestyle things, but also about environmental issues and veganism and things like that. But yeah,
that's fantastic that you focus on new, because again, like, it's so easy to if you don't understand and wonder why are people concerned about other people's personal choices, and yet it's like we agree on, hey, when there's a victim, if your personal choice is to kick a dog when you're walking down the street, and unknowingly to do it, right, you're running over dogs and you don't know about it, and then somebody's able to open that up to you. And I think you focusing there, it's always easier to live in a a vacuum and just surround yourself with other vegans. But what you do is so important. I hope people follow you on, I guess, so Instagram is where you put most of your things out, or do you have, what else can you plug right before we finish off?
Yeah, Instagram's the main thing, but I'm also on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. But I also created a video using Fuji Kaze's song the other day.
Wow.
Creating a vegan pudding recipe video, and he actually liked the video.
Wow.
And after that, all his fan accounts and everything, they all came swarming to the video, which was crazy. And he even actually took the time to send a private message, just basically supporting the work I do and saying thank you and everything, and it was really really nice of him. But just not, maybe less so about plugging the work I do, but a fellow request towards vegans around the world, or anyone who might be listening, is that one private pet peeve of mine, not pet peeve, but like one issue that I found is that oftentimes there's a lot of, not infighting, but a lot of things within the vegan community itself. Whenever I'm online and I look at that, and one of the biggest issues to me is that I see a lot of gatekeeping, right? There's a lot of people like, well, if you talk about the environment, then you can't be, then you're not vegan or whatever, or, just lots of things like that. And I'm like, hey, we're all trying to work towards a common goal here.
Absolutely.
To me, especially talking about the environment and health, to me, it's like, oh, sure, that's not, that might stray from the initial definition of veganism and everything, right? But the way I think about it is that, is your goal to protect the definition of veganism, or is your goal to, save as many animals from as much suffering as possible?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Because just kind of gatekeeping this stuff, it's, not just a waste of time, but you're literally working against your goal and making more animals suffer, in my opinion. So
I can't agree with you more. I used to live in India. I saw this in Japan with yoga community, and now this it's really this horizontal punching that we're all on the same team, so let's try to. Well, Alex, man, I could talk to you, we could do 3 episodes with you easily. I'd love to do that again. So happy to have this time with you. I'm sure everyone listening really appreciates to learn more about you. Let's we'll keep it going, and hopefully we'll be able to be graced with your presence again. And thanks to Alex.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
So, you have listened to the conversation with Eric and Vegan Oji Alex. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. If you enjoyed this episode, give us a rating and a follow on the podcast platform you are listening from. It means so much to us, and it will help the others to find this podcast easily. We also share a lot on social media like Instagram and Facebook, so don't forget to check it out for announcements, for giveaways or events and more. You will find links to Alex's all social medias and his podcast on the show note. If you have any questions as a feedback, don't hesitate to email us to this very address, betterearthn@gmail.com. Okay, then we will jump into the translation part in Japanese. はい、ということで今日はアスカさんと私カホでアレックスとエリックのコンバセーションを翻訳しながらちょっとディスカッションも入れてねしていこうと思います。はい、アスカさん、久しぶり。
お久しぶりです。
ね、久しぶりにお顔が見れて私も嬉しいです。
ちょっとカホさんの方はまだ朝早いけど。
そうですね。ちょっと早いですけど頑張って翻訳していきます。はい。で、まずエリックとアレックスの関係で、なんか5年前に2人とも出会ったみたいで、5年間ほど友人関係、結構強い友人関係を築き上げてきたらしいです。
へー、長い。
ね、長いですね。で、ヴィーガンになったのはなぜっていう質問に対してですね、アレックスさんは一応アメリカ育ちらしいんですね。で、最初はヴィーガンじゃなかったんですけど、なんか17歳の時に高校で友達がヴィーガンだと急にアレックスに教えてくれたらしいんですよ。で、それでアレックスはなんだそれみたいな感じで ベジタリアンは知ってたけど、なんかヴィーガンはあんまり聞いたことがなかった、知らなかったみたいな。で、イメージ的には若干ネガティブ。私もそうでしたけど、なんかネガティブなイメージ持ってて、で、なんで食の選択をわざわざ自分から狭めるのかっていう風に思ってたらしく、でもやっぱりその友達の話を聞いて、家に帰った時にヴィーガンは何なのかとか、ヴィーガンはどうやってやるのかとかっていう記事を読んで、こういうのあるんだって知ったらしいんですね。でその動画とかで環境とか動物倫理の話とか、健康に関する問題が世界ではたくさん存在することを知って、でめっちゃ驚いたらしいんですよ。でこの話はなんか11年前の話で、本人的にはこういうのを知って行動派になりたかった。行動派になりたかったから知識はゼロでしたけど、よしヴィーガンやってみようっていうことで、その日の朝起きて、でじゃあヴィーガンやるぞ、さてキッチン何があるか、バナナがあるぞ、バナナは食えるってバナナから始めたみたいです。
いいねいいね、その決断がねいいね、
ね、知識も経験もあまりなかったけど行動に移した、素晴らしいと思いました。はい、で、情報源は何だったのかとか、何に焦点を当てて始めたのかとかで、アレックスさんはあんまり何も使わなかったって言ってましたね。で17歳だったからあまり特に何も気にせずに生活していたと言ってました。でメインフォーカスはなんか何が食べれるかとか、ラベルをよく見ようとか、あとはヴィーガンレストランを検索してたみたいですね。そこを中心にはやってたみたいです。でアメリカも日本も意外と私たちが思っているよりもヴィーガンレストランってあるっていうことを気づいたみたいです。ヴィーガンレストランとかヴィーガンオプションかな。確かに私たちの日本食も意外とヴィーガン料理あったりしますし、アメリカとかでも特になんだっけな、アレックスさんはカリフォルニア、ロサンゼルスかな、ロサンゼルス出身だって言ってたので、そうだから、ロサンゼルスだと結構ヴィーガンいい感じで進んでるので、その例えとして通学路に知らないうちに毎日前を通っていたお店があるらしくて、でそのお店がビーガンジョイントっていうお店だったらしく、あるじゃんここにみたいな、学校の隣にあったじゃんとかっていう風に気づいて、で、気にして周りを見ているとビーガンはたくさん見つかったって言ってましたね。で家でどうしてたかっていうと、お母さんが家族のために作ってくれるんですけど、動物性食材を入れる前にアレックスさんのために料理を分けてくれてたそうです。で日本に来てハッピーカウとかミートアップイベントとかコミュニティに参加してヴィーガンの、コミュニティに参加し始めたらしいですね。これを聞いてて思ったのは、コミュニティって本当大切だなって思ったのと、コミュニティとか他にサポートしてくれる人、サポートし合える人がいれば、行動を習慣づけるのは楽なんじゃないかなって思いますね。で、東京でのおすすめの場所はということで、アインソフ、アスカさんもおすすめしてくれた1月プラントベースチャレンジの時に、アインソフ池袋、めちゃめちゃハンバーガーが美味しいと言ってました
ね。パンケーキですよね。
パンケーキか、そうだ、パンケーキとティラミスだ。で、あとグレートレイクス、早稲田にあるグレートレイクス、私ここ行ったことないし聞いたこともないんですけど、行ったことあります？
ないですね。
ここがハンバーガーが美味しいって言ってましたね。逆でしたね。アインソフがティラミスとパンケーキが美味しくて、グレートレイクスがハンバーガーが美味しいってね。ぜひ行ってみたいと思います、日本に帰った時ね。で、ヴィーガンなのに驚くほど美味しいという風に 言ってて、でもしビーガンの食べ物を食べたことない人と一緒にご飯行くとこういうところに連れてってあげるらしくて、で第一印象が一番大切だと思ってるから、プラントベースでもビーガンでも美味しいって思ってもらえるようなお店にいつも連れて行ってあげるって言ってました。でちょっとディープな話に入っていったんですけど、動物倫理について日本で話すとき気をつけていることはっていう質問で、一応みんな賛成すると思うんですけど、日本でこういう動物倫理とかのトピックを話すのとっても大変なんですよね。あんまり分かってもらえないというか、アレックスさんの考えだとやっぱり日本って可愛いパッケージだったりとか、しっかりねなんていうのパッケージされてきちんと綺麗に全てが完璧であるっていう文化、何も問題ないっていう文化の大きな一部が関わってるんじゃないかって言ってました。で環境の観点からいつも人に話すときに入っているらしくて、そこから動物倫理とか健康の話に関連付けて入っていくと、それについてのコメントをとか あとはクエスチョンかなっていうのをもらっているそうです。例えばこのバーガー作るのにこれだけの水使うの知ってたっていう風に言って、でそこからこのバーガー作るのに牛を何匹殺してるか知ってるっていう話に持っていくらしいです。だから彼が一番どのトピックについて話す時も大切にしているのは事実を中心に話すことらしいですね。確かにファクターベース、一番そこが人には分かってもらいやすいかな。特に日本人ですね。これどっかの回でも話しましたが、驚かせる、気づかせてあげるとか、そういうことを意識して自分の意見から言わないようにしているらしいです。ドキュメンタリードミニオンとかもおすすめするんですけど、自分自身残酷すぎて自分でも見れないらしいのであんまりおすすめはしないんだけど、食と問題のコネクションを少しでも多くの人に作ってもらえるように助けてあげることを考えているらしいです。でもし本当の全体的な事実や思考を知っていれば、世界中でビーガンのコンセプトを 99% の人が理解できるはずと思っていて、誰も地球が死ぬことを望んでないし、誰も余計な苦しみを起こしたくないし、誰も人生を短くしたくない。そこはみんなが望んでいることだと思うから、みんなが望んでいるゴールは一緒だから、そのゴールにどれだけ早くたどり着けるか、どれだけ多くの人に興味を持ってもらって、で行動してもらえるかっていうのをちゃんと考えながらいろいろ発信されてるみたいですね。でアレックスさん今やってることは主にビデオ制作とか情報の発信、今ビーガンマップの制作もしているらしいですね。で6年間かけて日本で情報を流す、何が最適な方法なのかっていう風にね、ビデオを通して理解させる方法を頑張って試行錯誤しながらいろいろ配信しているみたいです。もちろんアレックスさんポッドキャストもお持ちです。リナさんっていうお友達の方と、英語だとラブブリッジっていうんですけど、愛の架け橋っていう名前のポッドキャストを今も配信しています。 YouTube とか Spotify とかで配信しているらしいです。で主にそのポッドキャスト、ライフスタイルだったりとか環境問題とかビーガンについてを配信されているらしく、アレックスさんインスタグラム、ツイッター、TikTok、YouTube などいろいろな SNS で情報とかビデオを配信されています。なのでぜひ皆さんチェックしてみてください。はい、そんな感じでしたかね。なんか思ったことありますか、アスカさん。
本当に活動的ですよね。かっこいいです
ね。行動派でよしやるぞと決めたらやって11年ですからね。ビーガン歴結構長いですよね。そうなのでエリックとアレックスは友達関係が長くて、最後に エリックも言ってましたけど、アレックスとなら3エピソードぐらいできるとかって言ってたのでまたゲストとして戻ってきてもらいましょ
う。戻ってきてもらいましょう。
ねえ、次回は私たちも生で聞けるといいですね。
ねえ、そうですね。そうですね。
そのエピソードのためにですね、皆さんもし質問とか感想あれば、ぜひメールアドレス bettersn@gmail.com に送ってください。私たちの SNS のシェアも大歓迎です。シェアするときはハッシュタグ BN、ハッシュタグ bettersnow、ハッシュタグビーガン。ビーガンの美の字は漢字で美しいという字、ガンはローマ字で GAN です。よろしくお願いします。また、bettersnow は Spotify、Google Podcast、Apple Podcast、Amazon Music など各ポッドキャストプラットフォームで配信中です。より多くの人に聞いていただけるようにフォローや番組登録もよろしくお願いします。では、bettersnow、今日お送りしたのはゲストのビーガン王子アレックスさんとホストだったエリックと私カホ
パスカでした。
Thank you for listening. See you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.